to Random Talks with Rach. It's your host, Rachel Fleeman, aka Rach. I started a business in my parents' basement at 18 years old, and I'm now a 21-year-old shop owner who, like most all of us, is just trying to figure this whole life thing out, at least the best I can. Throughout this podcast, we'll be having lots of, random talks, from life lessons to personal growth to some business things here and there, and I assure you lots of other random things. I hope you give us, or should I say me, a listen and enjoy. Now let's get into this week's episode. Oh yeah, be sure to follow the podcast on all social media platforms to get a little behind the scenes of this wacky thing called life. Now let's get into this week's episode. I hope that if you're listening to this episode and you find yourself needing to hear these words, first of all, I'm giving you a huge hug and I want you to know that you're not alone. Please take it all in and take it easy on yourself. And if you're finding this episode and it may not be the right fit for your season of life, I hope that you know that one day, if and when you find yourself needing to hear these words, you know that this episode will always be here to find you. Once again, you are never ever alone. I love you so much. Now let's jump into the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Rach, and today we're going to be talking about 8 ways that you can show up for yourself starting today. Yes, I literally mean starting today. I'm hoping that as we go through these, they not only help you, but they also help remind me, because I need the reminder every once in a while. It is so important to be able to show up for ourselves, especially in the times where we feel most alone. It gets so easy to start filling the void of aloneness with other people and other things, and basically it feels like we're running away from being alone, when in reality, being alone is one of the biggest powers that you will have for yourself. The ability to be alone and being content to be alone is one of the biggest things that you'll be able to do for yourself, because not only does it help you find yourself and who you are and who you want to be, it helps you grow in yourself, but it helps you grow in other relationships because of the inner work that you're doing by spending time alone. It's awkward. I get it. Sometimes it can be awkward. Sometimes it can be like, what the fuck do I do with all this downtime? And I think our first natural response is to, I'm just going to go ask such and such if they can hang out, or let's go party, or let's go do this, because we're so scared of being alone. So today we're going to take a step back. I'm going to walk you through 8 steps that you can do to show up for yourself. And hopefully this helps you get through the aloneness season that you may or may not be in. You know, first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, I'm giving you a huge hug. I know self-care and growing in ourselves and that personal development is a big process. It's a big step, and there's a lot of things that go into it, and sometimes it can just feel very uncomfortable, and that's not always the best feeling. So I'm giving you a big hug. First thing I came up with when it comes to showing up for yourself is committing to habits that are not only good for you, but that you're going to stick to, and then sticking to them even when it's hard. Because let's face it, we've all been there where we create all these habits and we have this dream morning routine or dream whatever it is routine or habits that we start to do, and then we start to do them. And I think there's some science behind it, but you jump in head first with all this brand new morning routine when it starts to be 10 steps and you don't even have a 1-step morning routine. You roll out of bed, you get dressed, and you're done. And now you're I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to eat my breakfast. I'm going to work out. I'm going to read. I'm going to do all this stuff. You might do it for a day or two, and then it really just doesn't stick. And it's one of those things that we've talked about before on the podcast. It takes a while to build a habit. So building habits, not only small that you can start and stick to, but then sticking to them even when it's hard. If your habit that you want to start doing is reading more or something in the morning instead of scrolling on your phone, what I do when I came up, that's one of my actual morning routines actually, but what I did to help with that is I put my Kindle on my bed. That way in the morning, yes, my phone is on my nightstand next to me, but my Kindle's right there. And my excuse before would be my Kindle's in my bag. I'm too tired to get up. I just want to cozy up in bed and stuff. But now I had no excuse because my Kindle's literally right next to me. And so it's a lot easier for me to be okay, now I'm going to read instead of scroll. When I look at it in the big picture, scrolling makes me honestly feel just so drained, and I hate it, and it makes me not like how I feel and all that. Versus reading, I feel productive. I feel ahead of the game and all that stuff. So creating small habits that you're going to be able to stick to, especially when it's hard, is really important when it comes to you. And not only that, but it also has to do with self-discipline. It helps you show up for yourself even in the little ways. The second one, and this one I think is a hard pill to swallow, especially if you are a people pleaser, but it's self-forgiveness. You need to give yourself some grace, just like you would give anybody else in your life. Think of how many times people have done you wrong and how many times you forgive them because you would want them to forgive you if you did wrong or something like that. It's so easy for us to like hand out just forgiveness cards all over the place. But how often do you forgive yourself? How often do you tell yourself it's okay if you didn't do this? Or do you keep reliving the past? It's like, I heard this analogy somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but it's basically like if you are told to do something by your parents, let's say it's do the dishes or whatever, and you do the dishes and then your parent comes in and is looking at it and you did the dishes and the kitchen's spotless or whatever, but they tell you, oh, you remember that time when the dishes were dirty? Instead of being like, oh, it's good, like good job, like not congratulating, but you know what I mean? Instead of saying like, oh, thank you, I appreciate it, cool, go play with your friends, whatever the case is, they nag on you and be like, okay, but those dishes were dirty and you didn't clean them up when you should have right away or whatever the case is. It's how often do you do that to yourself? How often do you maybe make a mistake or you put off stuff and then you do it and then you just dwell on that time where you didn't do it or the time, or you just dwell on your past mistake? I don't know if that analogy fully makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but I'm not the best at putting the stuff that comes in my head out in words. Let me just put it there. But basically, how often do you just forgive others and are okay with forgiving others because it's just like, oh yeah, if I did this, I'd want them to forgive me. And this goes for big and small, especially when it comes to your relationship with yourself. Like we've talked about before, your relationship with yourself is the best and biggest relationship you will ever have in your life. You are the only person you are going to spend day one till the end of your days with. You're the only person who knows exactly how you've been feeling and who knows all your feelings. You're the only person who has been through all of the seasons of your life, all the good, all the bad, all the ugly, all the highs, all the lows. You are the only person who has spent your entire life with you. Yes, we have parents. Yes, you have friends. Yes, you have siblings. We have all these other people, but your relationship with yourself needs to be one of your top priorities in building, just like you would with your family and your friends and all that, because it's important for your life. It's an important relationship in your life. The same thing goes for your relationship with yourself. Giving yourself some grace and practicing self-forgiveness for the big and the small things. And I think a lot of it is even in the small things. It's like we do one little thing and then we get so frustrated with ourselves. I'm not going to lie. This podcast was supposed to be recorded yesterday. I was here for probably like 2 hours and I tried to record so many different things. I was so excited. I had the whole recording day mapped out. I started a whole day in my life. And I got here and it's like I recorded for 2 hours, but nothing was sticking. I didn't feel like me. I felt so fake. I felt phony, but I couldn't like snap myself out of it. I felt like the stuff I was saying, I was like, this isn't what I wanted to say. And I just couldn't get it. And I ranted to my friend about it because I was driving home and I'm like, this is just pissing me off. Like genuinely, I don't know what it is. This podcast I found has been my escape. It's been my happy place. It's been where I can just go and say this stuff. And I relate to so many of you people, and so many of you guys will reach out to me and be like, I really needed to hear this. And I absolutely love that. I love that this can be that kind of space because that is what I've always wanted to do, I guess. I am a big people pleaser, as we know, and just it feels like one big happy friendship community type of thing, but it also feels so one-on-one with you guys. Like when you guys reach out and then you tell me stories of how that situation had helped you or whatever, the words that I was saying, it's just like, it feels like, I don't know, it feels like a friendship in a way. And I absolutely love that. So I was so frustrated yesterday when it wasn't going my way. And my friend, she was like, look, you are doing amazing things. It's okay if it doesn't go your way. She goes, I understand why you're upset with yourself. But the thing was, I was so pissed at myself in the moment as I was saying, you got to give yourself self-forgiveness. You have to practice self-forgiveness. So I felt so fake in my words. So that whole night I was like, it's okay. I left the setup here. So I am here earlier before the store opens. And I was like, if I feel like it, I'm going to record, but I'm not going to force it. I have stuff batched, so I don't need to record the episode, but I like to stay ahead of the game. And so basically, long story short, I'm not perfect. I do the same thing too. I've been there with you guys. It's not an easy thing. It was something so little as a recording day when I already have things batched out, but I was so frustrated because I'd spent all day working on getting ready for the recording day. My hair was curled yesterday. It was looking really cute, all that stuff. And then I come and then nothing goes as planned. And sometimes this happens and you just have to give yourself some grace. So I spent the night and I had a little self-care night. I watched The Rookie. I went to bed. and I woke up refreshed. And it rained and it stormed last night, which really helped because those are my favorite walks, is like the morning after a storm. Oh my gosh, I love those walks. But anyway, so yeah, practice self-forgiveness, forgive yourself a little bit more, give yourself some grace, all that good stuff. Number 3 is deep check-ins with yourself, and doing it often is so, so important. By these deep check-ins, I mean this is time where you really take a step back and you evaluate what's going on in your life, who, what issues are going on. These are good and bad things though too. So what I do with this is about every other week or once a month, really when I'm really feeling it, like if I'm feeling drained or if I'm feeling like on the borderline of a funk or burnout or whatever the case is, that's when I really take a step back and I literally write down every single feeling that is going through my head. Like all of the feelings for all the different situations going on in my life, I write them down because it's one thing to have them in your head and it's another thing to have them out on paper. And then from there, I can see why certain things bothering me. I'm like, okay, well, I'm overthinking this thing, or this thing is really bothering me, but it's because of this. And then I can take a step back and I can break it down and be like, what is in my control? Is any of this in my control? Or is it just simply I've said what I need to say, I've done what I need to do, all of that stuff, and now it's out of my control. And so in those moments, that's when I'm like, okay, now I need to stop thinking about this, or I need to stop putting my energy into this. And it can become really hard because obviously it's way easier said than done to be like, okay, you need to stop thinking about this or stop doing this or whatever the case is. It's a lot easier said than done. Let's be real. So in those moments, that's when I really am like, okay, if I catch myself thinking about a certain situation that I told myself we're going to let go, we're going to detach ourselves from it, that's when I will stop myself mid-thought or at the end of the thought and be like, okay, but we're letting it go. You thought it? Okay, but we're letting it go. And eventually the problem, you don't think about it as often. And it's one thing when it's out of your control versus if it's in your control. And if it's something that is in your control, that's when you really need to take a step back and like break down all the issues that are going on in your life. So yeah, have deep check-ins with yourself, feel how you're feeling, see where your energy is going, all that good stuff. And that kind of leads into number 5, which is actually notice where your energy goes. And those are the thoughts that are going to fill your mind. So make sure that whatever consumes you, you can redirect it. Kind of like how I was saying, if I'm thinking about something that I know I told myself I was going to let go of, I tell myself, okay, let it go and move on. And then I move on to the next thought. My brain is constantly going. I'm sure I know a lot of ours just never shut the fuck up, you know? It's one of those types of situations where it's like, if you are thinking of something, redirect your energy somewhere else or redirect your thought process somewhere else. If you're feeling this sadness, we'll put happy music on or feel your feels. It's okay to feel your feelings, but don't be mad at yourself for doing that. If you're going to feel it, feel it. If you're going to redirect it into a happy stance, then redirect it into a happy stance. Make sure that you don't get mad at yourself or upset with yourself or frustrated with yourself for doing what's best for you and like redirecting and trying to feel your feelings, because you need to understand them at the end of the day. Noticing where your energy goes and where it flows and where you're putting it is truly, truly important. Energy is such a powerful thing. And I know some of you are like, bullshit, what the fuck is that? But at the same time, energy truly, I've noticed, is a really big thing. Are you going to give your time and your energy and effort into a certain situation more so than you already have, or do you need to redirect that somewhere else? It's like we all have a battery. We have a social battery, we have all the batteries. You've heard of the social battery and all that stuff. And it's one of those things that is your energy. That battery right there is your energy. Where are you going to direct it? It's like when you're on your phone and you know you're going to go on a trip or something, or you're going to, you're not going to be able to have a place to charge it. So you use it wisely. You use it if you're going on a trip in the mountains or something. You're only going to use it to take pictures of really pretty things. Otherwise, you're not going to just sit there and scroll. You're using the phone's battery and the energy of it wisely because you want to use it where it's going to be beneficial for you in the long run, where the pictures you can look back on for years to come and all of that good stuff. So just make sure that when you are giving your energy to certain things, that you're truly being mindful of where you're putting it. Obviously, again, it's way easier said than done, but it's something to just be mindful of. And who and what you're putting your energy into is so important. Pay attention to the people that you're surrounding yourself with and notice if they drain you, or notice like at the end of hanging out with them, do you feel like your cup is full or do you feel like your cup is empty? Do you feel better than you did before hanging out with them, or do you feel more drained? And I feel like those are all things that like your body's trying to tell you. I feel like gut feelings are a big thing. I always say my gut feeling is my guardian angel. You can think of it however you want, but intuition is so important. It's something that I don't just disregard anymore because I used to. And in the end, my gut was always right, even when I didn't follow it. So following your intuition, it's trying to tell you something. So if you're spending your energy or your time on something and it just doesn't feel right, that's when you should take a deep check-in with yourself and figure out what the hell is going on with the situation. Why do you feel like this? Do these people or does this thing drain you more than it gives you energy? And that leads into number 6, which is making yourself a priority just as you would with your friends. And with this, I mean, if you make plans with yourself, and I mean you should make plans with yourself to start with, but I mean, like, if you're planning on having a self night in or whatever, that is plans made with yourself. And you need to take that into account just as you would if you had plans with somebody else. You're not going to cancel plans with friends to go hang out with other friends or somebody else. You know what I mean? It's like when you have and make plans with yourself or time blocked out for yourself, act as if that is plans made with somebody else as well. That way, if friends go out and they ask you, hey, let's go to this party or let's go out and have a wine night or whatever. I mean, obviously some circumstances play into it. If it's a friend that's not around a lot or you don't get to see him a lot, you can take that into account. But it's also something where you need to listen to yourself and you need to make yourself a priority. If you feel drained, if you feel like you just need to recharge and have a self-care night or whatever the case is, listen to yourself. Listen to what your body is trying to tell you, what your mind is trying to tell you, and make yourself a priority just as you would any other relationship in your life. Was that number 5 or number 6? I feel like I'm getting the numbers all out of order. I think that was number 6, right? That was number 6. Hopefully I got the numbers right. So number 7, starting over as often and as much as you need to. It is okay to start over, whether that is in a career, whether that's within friendships, whether that's in relationships, whether that's just in your personal life and figuring out what the hell it is you want to do with your life. Start over as often as you want. We're only on this earth for a short amount of time. I know, cliche, you're probably like, oh my God, yeah, okay, rolling your eyes at me, that's okay. But I'm telling you, you have the full ability to start over. If you're in a job that just doesn't feel right anymore or drains you or just doesn't give you the energy, whatever it is, and you have a dream to do something different, then do it. Start small. Obviously, I know you probably can't just pack up and quit your job and start something completely new, but start looking for something else or start figuring out what it is you truly do want to do and start taking the action to get yourself to that point. It is okay to start over. If you're in a relationship with yourself and you're trying to figure out, okay, what it is I want to do or what dreams do I truly have, you can start over as often as you want. Maybe you're in a dream right now. Maybe that dream was yours when you were 15, 16, 17 years old or years ago, but it's not your dream anymore. That is okay. You don't have to stick to something for the rest of your life just because at some point it was what you wanted, kind of thing. And within friendships and relationships, if shit happens, start over. Fresh starts are so beautiful. Fresh beginnings are so beautiful. Within them comes a lot of forgiveness. Within them comes a lot of communication. And I think we'll talk about this in the next episode about comprehension over communication. It's also so important, but sometimes people deserve second chances. Sometimes you deserve a second chance, and you have to be able to understand that. And it's okay to start over. You don't have to hold a grudge forever. You don't have to regret the things that you're doing because you think you have to do it because somebody, I don't know, we always say Jim Bob on this episode, so I guess we'll just say Jimmy or Jim Bob, because that person said, oh, well, this is their life, and you think you have to live up to that because you've done it and you've started it. If it doesn't suit you anymore, that's okay. You can have new career paths, new jobs, new passions, new whatever the case is. You can start over as often and as much as you need to. Okay, I think this is number 8. I don't know. I have 2 more written down, so maybe there'll be 9 in this episode. I don't know. I think I've got the numbers mixed up. So this is either 7 or 8, but don't label your feelings. Don't label your feelings in the sense of this is a good or a bad one. Instead, try to figure out what the feelings are trying to tell you. Try to figure out how these are affecting your life. If you are going to feel your feelings, like I was saying earlier, if you're going to feel your feelings, feel your freaking feelings. If you're going to be upset or sad with yourself, give yourself some grace, obviously, but don't regret the decision that you're making. If you're going to feel happy, enjoy every single moment. That is something that I've noticed a lot lately with my morning walks, especially this morning. I told you, after it storms, I absolutely love it. I just feel so peaceful. I love the smell after a storm, and I love like the birds are chirping. It's like damp outside. It feels so homey, and I love it. So After that, that's when I feel most at peace. I take a deep breath and I truly try to live in the present moment. Usually when I'm going on my walks, I'm listening to a podcast. There's this one part of my walk that I absolutely love. One of my neighbors, they just got chickens, and I live in like a neighborhood. Nobody has chickens. I didn't honestly even think you could have chickens in our neighborhood, but apparently we can. And he has chickens, and there's like this cute little coop. And so I walk around and he has all these wood chips, and they smell like obviously wood. And I love that. It just feels so homey. Oh my gosh, I love the smell of nature. I love everything about it. And so walking around, you get a whiff of the fresh wood chips, and then you turn around and you see all these little chickens just running around, and it's so stinking cute, and it makes me smile every single time. And it's just like in that little moment, I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay. Because there are some mornings where I don't want to go on my walk. I'm like, it'd be much easier to just lay in bed and do absolutely nothing and to feel my feelings if I'm having a bad week or a bad day or a bad start to it or whatever the case is. It's obviously easier to just lay in bed and do nothing. But that's when I'm like, no, because you always feel better when you're out and about and doing the walk. So doing it, but going along with that, I feel like that's kind of got off topic from not labeling your feelings, but don't label your feelings. If you're going to feel happy, feel happy. If you're going to feel sad, feel sad. Don't label that as good or bad. If you're feeling sad and angry, you don't need to label that as a bad feeling. Instead, take a step back and try to figure out what the hell it's trying to tell you. Why do you feel angry? And then take it deeper. Are you feeling angry because of the circumstance? Okay, why is the circumstance bothering you so much? Like, take a deep dive into the things. And obviously, again, like everything I've said in this episode, it's way easier said than done. It's going to take work. It's going to take time, but putting in the effort and being mindful about it is so, so important. And the last one, I thought this was number 8, but maybe it's not. Maybe I counted wrong. I don't know. Regardless, if it's not, this is a bonus one for you guys. Practicing gratitude and doing it often. I do gratitude every single day, multiple times a day. There are times where I think it is so easy to get so caught up in what we don't have that we forget what we do have, the little things. And a lot of the times it's when I'm on my going on my drives and I'm listening to like my not sad music, but you just get in your feels, and you're thinking about all the things going on in your life and what you want and all this stuff. But I think it gets so easy to be like, well, this is what I want and I don't have it yet. That's when this is what I do when I'm driving at least, or sometimes I do this even if I'm like in my bed and I'm journaling. I take a step back and I look around me. Obviously I'm driving, but I'm like, okay, I have a car. I have the means and the money to go fill my car up with gas. I have this cup in my cup holder that I'm drinking water out of, fresh water out of. And I have this smelly thingy dangling from my window that smells so, so good, but that's a bonus of having it. I can go get a car wash. I have this car wash membership thing. I can go do that. And you just look around you. I have the clothes on my body. I have the sunglasses right here to protect myself from the sun. I have all these little things that we take for granted every single day. And it's easy to remind yourself. And if I'm doing this at home, I'll be looking around. I'm like, I have a bed to sleep in. I have blankets galore to keep myself warm at night. I have a roof over my head. I have a beautiful window that sun shines through in the morning. I have a speaker that I can listen to my music. I have a TV that I can watch my shows. I have the ability to watch my comfort shows. I have the subscriptions to do it. It just becomes one of those things where if you just literally once a day take a step back, it doesn't matter where you are, you can find something good anywhere you are. Even if you're like in a store, you have the ability to be walking in the store with the shoes on your feet and the clothes on you, and you have the ability to smile at these people and to see the things around you and to hear the conversations going around you or the music playing or whatever. There's so many little things that is so easy to take for granted because we're so focused on what we don't have. To me, the best little things happen to be all the things in nature. It's like the butterflies flying around, the birds chirping, the fresh breeze smell or the fresh breeze and the fresh air, and the trees that tower over me and all this other stuff. And it's stuff that it's there. It's just there. And I don't know, I feel like it's so easy to just get caught up, like I said, in the things that we don't have, that we forget the little things that we do, and we just take them for granted. So once a day at least, take a step back and just take a look around you. Take a look around you and be grateful for all the things that you do have while working towards the things that you don't. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This felt so much better. You have no idea how relieved I am. This just felt right. And I can't explain it even more. Like I said, yesterday was a shitty day, to say the least. It wasn't really a fully shitty day, but like after recording, I was just in a terrible mood because nothing went right. And it was easy to beat myself up over it. But here today, It actually went good, and I'm excited for you guys to listen to this, and I hope that at least one of the things in this episode helps you in some way, shape, or form. You can save it and come back to it again and again whenever you need these little reminders to follow the podcast on all the social media platforms. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, leave a 5-star review. It means the absolute world to me. If you're here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe down below. It helps out so much. Give the video a like, share the podcast with all your family and friends or somebody who you think could use a little extra love every now and then. I hope you know that you're never alone. We're here with you. We're going through life. There's ups, there's downs, there's a whole wave of it. We just got to ride the wave and keep on moving forward. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you in a few weeks. Have a great week, and yeah, bye.